Welcome, everyone. Let's begin our lesson for today by going over the learning goals and success criteria. First, what are we learning? We're learning how to find the slope and y-intercept of a function from an equation, how to graph linear functions using slope and y-intercept, how to graph multiple linear functions on the same plane and find the point of intersection, and how to solve systems of equations algebraically using the elimination method. How are we learning it? Through the solving systems of equations by graphing notes and the solving systems of equations by graphing assignment, as well as the I want it, I need it, I have to have it assignment. When can we use this information? To find economic solutions to financial problems such as income versus expenses and supply versus demand, and to determine how to run a successful company by utilizing the principles of supply and demand. How do you know you learned it? By getting a score of 4 on the solving systems of equations by graphing assignment and a 4 on the I want it, I need it, I have to have it assignment. Now let's take a look at our agenda for today. We will begin by going over the learning goals and success criteria. While we do that, you'll fill out your Get It Started. Once you've completed your Get It Started, we'll go over it together and answer any questions that you may have. Next, we'll do our weekly raffle. After that, I'll give you time to complete the solving systems of equations by graphing assignment on IXL. Now, this is an activity we've already done, so if you've already gotten a SMART score of 80, you'll move down here and work on the I want it, I need it, I have to have it assignment. If you have not already completed it with a SMART score of 80, you'll continue working on your IXL activity. Then at the end of class, we'll go back over our learning goals and success criteria while you fill out your before you go. Your only homework for tonight is to continue working on the Systems of Linear Equations study guide and any incomplete assignments that you may have. Let's take a look now at the solving systems of equations by graphing notes. The notes begin with the learning goals and success criteria.
Now let's talk about slope. What is slope? Slope is a rate of change involving x values and y values. Slope is known as for being the change in the dependent variable over the change in the independent variable. Now what does that really mean? That really means that slope is the change in the y values over the change in the x values. So it's always y over x. And the next part you need to know is the y-intercept. The y-intercept is the point where the linear function crosses the y-axis. So we have a line here, and we can see that the y-axis goes here. So where do they intersect? Well, they intersect right there. That is what we call the y-intercept. So in this case, our y-intercept would be 2. Slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is written as y equals mx plus b. And what does that mean? M is the slope, and b is the y-intercept. Y and x are my variables that stay variables so that I can plug numbers in and see what they come out to be. So m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. Now, how can I remember that? The easiest way I remember this is m represents the slope because it's a slippery slope to get hung up on your x. So think about it in terms of relationships. People that are involved in relationships and they break up, there's usually that one person in that relationship that's always hanging on to the relationship that's already dead. That's the slope. That's M. It's a slippery slope to get hung up on your ex. They are not together anymore. But the M is always trying to hang on. Notice how close they are. So M is trying to hang on, and it's a slippery slope to get hung up on your ex. Now B, on the other hand, is alone. Not attached to anybody. B is lonely. And lonely people ask the questions, why am I alone? Why does no one want me? Why does no one think I'm cute? That's B. B is always asking the why questions. Those are the y-intercept questions. So that's the way I remember it. It's a slippery slope to get hung up on your ex. And why am I alone? So that's the way I remember slope and y-intercept. Now, let's go ahead and pick out the slope and y-intercept from an equation. So we're given an equation, y equals 2x plus 4. And we want to know what is the slope of that line. Well, we know that the slope is the one that's attached to its x, right? So it's a slippery slope to get hung up on your x. So the one that's attached to the x in this case is 2. So the slope is 2. The y-intercept is the lonely one. Why am I alone? Well, the lonely one is 4. So my y-intercept is 4. So that's how I pick out the slope and y-intercept given an equation. Let's look at another example. We have y equals negative 3 halves x minus 3. Well, same thing. It's a slippery slope to get hung up on your x. So the slope is the one that's attached to the x, which is negative 3 halves. So that's my slope. And my y-intercept is the lonely one. Well, the lonely one in this case is negative 3. So b is negative 3. So that's how I find the slope and y-intercept from an equation. Now, how do I graph a linear function? Well, first thing I need to do is pick out my slope and my y-intercept. Well, in this case, my slope is negative 1/2, because that's attached to the x. Now, my y-intercept, notice there's nothing here. There's no lonely people. So how do I say none in math terms? Well, that's 0. So my y-intercept is 0. So now when I graph this, the first step is I plot the y-intercept. Well, my y-intercept is 0. So I'm going to go along my y-axis and find 0, which is right here. And I plot my point. The next step is I'm going to use the slope to plot my second point. Remember, this is change in y over change in x, or you might have heard it in the past as rise over run. We're going to talk about it as change in y over change in x. So my change in y is negative 1. So I go down 1. And my change in x is 2, so I'm going to go to the right, 1, 2, and plot my point. So now I have my first 2 points. The next step is just to connect the dots and draw a line between them. So I'm going to connect the dots, and now I have a linear function that is graphed that goes through 0 and has a slope of negative 1/2. There's a video here also that shows you how to graph linear functions in Desmos. So you can go ahead and watch that.
Let's talk now about how to check our work with linear equations using Desmos. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to desmos.com, just like this, and we're going to click on the link that says Graphing Calculator. And over here on the left side, we can enter the equation of any linear equation and it will graph it for us. So let's try y equals 2x minus 4. Well, as we can see, it graphs it for us. We can check that against whatever we did on our assignment now. And you can do it this way. Let's say we had an equation, though, that wasn't in slope-intercept form. We can still graph that on here and check our work. So let's say it was 4x minus 2y is equal to 8. And we can see that that's actually the same as this one. But we can look at this and check our work this way as well. It still graphed the equation in slope-intercept form, even though the equation we put in is not in slope-intercept form. So this is one way that you can check your work using Desmos to find linear equations. Now let's take a look at how we can graph systems of linear equations. So all this really means is we're going to graph both of these lines at the same time. So on the first one, we'll go ahead and graph this. So we're going to plot our y-intercept, which is negative 2. So we're going to go down 2 and plot our point. And the slope is 1/3. So we're going to go up 1 to the right 3, plot our point, and connect the dots. So just like we did earlier, that's the same thing we're going to do now. Now, we're just going to plot the second line on the same graph. So my y-intercept for this one is 3. So I'm going to go up 3 and plot my point. And my slope is negative 1/2. So I'm going to go down 1 to the right 2, connect the dots. And notice now I have a point where they intersect, which is right there. That is considered the solution to the system of equations. Now there's a video here that shows you how to check systems of linear equations in Desmos. So go ahead and watch that video. Let's talk now about how we can use Desmos to check our work when dealing with systems of linear equations. So first thing we're going to do is go to desmos.com, which is here, and we're going to click on Graphing Calculator. Now, this allows us to type in our equations over here. So let's go ahead and put in an equation. So let's say it's y equals 2x minus 4. So there's our first equation. Now we're going to type in our second equation. So we're going to go to the line below it. And let's say it's y equals negative 2x plus 4. So there's my 2 lines. And if I go to where the 2 lines intersect and click on it, I can see that it gives me the coordinates of exactly where the 2 lines intersect. They intersect at x equals 2 and y equals 0. So this would be the solution to my system of equations. And I can do this by inputting any two equations and then going to the point of intersection and clicking on it. It will tell me what the coordinate of that is, with the x coordinate first and the y coordinate second. So this is how you can check your work using Desmos when dealing with systems of linear equations. Let's talk now about how to access your assignments on IXL using SBLink. So what you'll do is you'll click on the link that takes you to your SBLink, which should look like this, and you're going to log in the same way you would log into your computer. So the first part for your username is going to be the first part of your email address without the @sbcusd.ca.us. So it should be your last name, first initial, middle initial, and then the last four of your student ID. Then for your password, it's the same password you use to log into your Chromebook. From there, you'll go ahead and click Sign In. And it should take you to a page that looks kind of like this. You're going to go find the link that says IXL, which is right here. And I'm going to go ahead and click on that link. And it should take me to the IXL login page. So it should look like this. At the top right corner, it should say welcome and then your name. If it does not say your name, then you're not logged in and you won't receive credit for your work. As long as this is good, you can go ahead and close that tab out. And then you can go to your Google Classroom, and then you'll go and find the activity, which is here. And I'm going to click on the IXL link right here. And this will take me to the assignment that I need to complete. So that's how you log into your assignments on IXL using SBLink. Let's take a look now at the Solving Systems of Equations by Graphing assignment. The assignment begins with the learning goals and success criteria. If we scroll down, there's a link here that'll take you to SBLink. Go ahead and click on that link and log in. Once you've logged in, return to this page and then click on this link to access your IXL activity. And it should take you to a page that looks like this. It gives us two equations and asks us to graph them. So the first one is y equals 3/2 x minus 2. So we're going to plot the y-intercept at -2. And our slope is 3/2, so we're going to go up 1, 2, 3, and to the right 2, just like that. And there's my first one. Now to plot the second one, I'm going to scroll down to this part, and I'm going to click on this blue one here, and that will allow me to graph that equation. So it has a y-intercept at 6, so I'm going to go here to 6. And a slope of -1/2, so I go down 1 to the right 2 and plot my point. So now I've graphed the two, and it wants me to also state what the solution is. So where did they cross? Well, they cross right here, which I can see my x is 4 and my y is 4. So my solution is 4, 4, and I hit submit. It tells me I got it right and gives me another question. Notice my SMART score went up. I will continue to answer questions just like this. You complete the activity by getting a SMART score of 80. If you miss a question, that's okay. Your SMART score will go down a little bit. You just keep working until you get your SMART score back up. When you're done, you'll go back to your Google form and click Next. This will take you to your Before You Go. Go ahead and fill out your Before You Go and then submit your work on Google Classroom.